Philip Kennedy Johnson, Riccardo Federici, and Will Conrad dive into the lore of Warworld and reveal the origins of the battle station as Mongul begins waging war across the cosmos in a bid to gain more power against Superman and his team. Philip Kennedy Johnson masterfully returns us to the lore of Warworld with a very story-rich issue that explains some of the backstory of the battle station and the various hidden mysteries in its storied landscapes. I thoroughly enjoyed the scale Johnson is selling here, now reaching the story all the way back to the birth of the universe and the multiverse for that matter, and revealing what Mongul is truly after and the way he goes about exploring it through Byler's story and exploration in the innards of Warworld like the Necropolis is just so much fun. Of course, when it comes to making new aspects in cosmic hierarchy, it's hard not to find comparisons in other cosmic hierarchies, and here is no different, as the god aspects which we have revealed here are essentially a combination of Green Lantern rings and Infinity Stones, given what they represent. Despite that, I'm looking forward to what Johnson does with them, since that's what counts the most, and if this is the true way Superman gets his power back, that's kinda cool, but if it's a red herring, that's even better. Johnson also delivers a cool backup story detailing how the first Mongul took power and gained one of these god aspects, as well as exploring the effects of it on these beings. The genesis of all the Mongols is something we've never really seen before, so that was thoroughly satisfying to get that answer finally. Riccardo Federici and Will Conrad tackle the artwork, with Riccardo dealing out a thoroughly beautiful set of pages that help showcase the detail-ridden script Johnson has produced, with their own art filled with meticulous detail, colour and action that move the story along at a really nice pace. Action Comics issue 1043 was another brilliant issue in Superman's Warworld saga, revealing more key plot points through some fantastic in-universe storytelling, as well as moving us on to the next act of Philip Kennedy Johnson's masterpiece. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Action Comics issue 1043 finds Superman leading the Phalosians towards the Citadel as Clark remembers a recent journal entry reminding him to remember his wife and son, and that he's vulnerable and he can die on Warworld. As Superman leads the attack on the Citadel, Teacher continues to torture Manchester Black, upset that he doesn't have more time to test out his machines on the man since his friends are coming. Teacher knows that if all goes to plan, his friends will watch as Black's worst nightmares are made real and boil out of his skull to rip them up. Black jokes about being forced to watch all of Dudley Moore's Arthur movies, as Teacher tells him that every time he sees the scar on his face, he'll remember their time together. He powers up his machines as Superman blows his way into the lab, telling the villain that he's done for. Teacher is angered that they are there before he can finish, telling Orphan and Darling to tear them apart. The giant mech attacks, blowing through the war zones as Midnighter tells Superman to fight. Krillex tells him that the robot and baby in Orphan and Darling rely on each other, but Superman doesn't know if it's a real baby or not, but the armor is done for, slicing it apart with his unbloodied sword, severing the connection between the two beings as Natasha manages to get a hold of the orphan box they came for, using it to send the rampaging Darling away, freeing Manchester Black, who introduces everyone to Teacher, knowing they're going to get on like a house on fire. In the Necropolis, Mongul is told the heroes have the orphan box, knowing Teacher wouldn't abandon the Citadel or his work, but his pride has cost Mongul a valuable asset. One of these underlings tells him they need to stop destroying the Necropolis, but Mongul knows that thanks to it changing shape, it's impossible to map or find the rebels within it, so it must be mined for the Genesis power. The man knows the Genesis is the lifeblood of the planet, and if he keeps this up, he'll kill off the Great Worms and even the planet itself. Mongul doesn't care, knowing that he was the one who brought him the first fragment, and it was this man that bade him to lure Superman there. Mongul throws him down, telling him that nothing else will matter once the rebels are dead and the Necropolis is cracked open. Mongul demands that they need more soldiers and Apollo will help them claim them from other worlds. Apollo is ordered to become one with Warworld and give the Warzoons his power as he opens up a portal to an alien world where the farmers try and call the United Planets as Warworld arrives in orbit to invade. Superman meanwhile looks over the now deep sleeping orphan baby, with not even Byla Esh knowing where it came from, only knowing that Teacher designed the orphan boxes based on Orphan and Darling. The group want to ask Manchester Black since he might have learned something while being tortured, but Midnighter just wants to torture Teacher into giving them their crew back. Natasha tells him that they have moved Apollo and the people claim that they are now keeping him in the Star Forge at Engine City 1, the most heavily guarded place on the planet. Midnighter knows that they should have freed him when they had the chance, but a Warzone Warzoon knows that if they had, every Phalosian would have been killed along with Natasha. Nat knows that there is some good news since Krill found Enchantress and she's being kept in a place called the Nest where the Mother lives. Midnighter wants to know what her deal is, so Nat explains that Mongul found a rich world and raided it years ago, but upon raiding it, he found that everyone had been drained of life and hung on the walls. She says that the locals, knowing that Warworld was coming, awakened an ancient evil called the Undead Witch Queen, knowing it would kill them, but it would also kill the Warzoons as well, since he made a deal with the witch and promised her everything in exchange for using her curse to help him kill his father and take power. Midnighter thinks this is going to be a hassle, as Krill knows that Enchantress might be alive down there, and if she is alive, disturbing the nest could unleash Mother on all of Warworld and kill everyone. Midnighter asks Superman what their next move is, and Mongul subjugates another world, forcing them to summon their master. One of the farmers summon Tharos, who thinks that Mongul has misunderstood their agreement, since if the United Planets don't interfere with his raiding, then there would be nothing to fear from Warworld, yet Mongul attacks them. Mongul knows that they now have Thanagarian war machines and the United Planets could potentially repel a Warworld attack, demanding Tharos explain why he failed to mention them. The coward knows that he meant no offense, but Mongul tells him that he is taking this planet and its people as a gift, and the people will now be slaves and their flesh will be fed to the great worms. He demands 10,000 of the Thanagarian warships as well, not wanting to hear Tharos' complaints, since with these gifts, his life is insured. Superman meanwhile finds exposure to the Genesis down in the necropolis has brought back his powers, and he knows he doesn't need superhearing to hear the Warzoon's drums as they begin beating down the necropolis nearby, trying to find them. Superman doesn't want to go deeper into the place since there is too much Genesis power down there and the Phalosians' powers might begin to manifest and it's too dangerous and unpredictable. Clark goes to see Byla, finding that he is telling stories of the Mongols and how their fate is locked with Warworld now. Byla walks with Superman, wanting to tell him a story. Clark walks with the man, learning that he's slowly learning the old writing and has learned basic structure and number systems, but that's about it. He shows Superman the oldest runes in the necropolis, citing how they talk about source myths, most of which have been echoed throughout multiple worlds in the multiverse, and some Clark might even recognize from Earth, citing ones like Orpheus and even Moses. He knows that he read that particular myth from thousands of other worlds, and the events of Superman coming have been echoed throughout the multiverse since the beginning of time. But the next story is one the hero must hear himself. Byla tells him about the mighty Ulgron, the first and greatest of the gods, who waged war against other gods who rose to fight him, tearing him apart and dividing him into 7 god aspects which took the form of gems which were hid across the multiverse, each with a device that would protect it from the wrathful and unworthy. Byla reveals that from each aspect a world was born, and Ulgron's story soon fell into myth, along with a warning that if all aspects are found and combined by one who is worthy, then they will be reborn as the hero he was meant to be, but if they are found by someone unworthy, wrath and fury will be unleashed across all of creation. Byla tells Superman that Warworld isn't just some battle station, it's a trial and puzzle box that needs to be opened and was built to protect the fire of Ulgron, the power Mongul wants, and if Superman doesn't claim it, Mongul will. The Warzoons meanwhile get ready for a battle, setting up emplacements when suddenly Mongul and his new Thanagarian warships arrive from above, obliterating the warriors.